Once upon a time, there was a hungry wolf. He saw a little pig inside a straw house and thought he would make a mighty fine meal. His mouth began to water, and so he approached the door, and with a huff and a puff, he blew the house down. The little pig got so scared and ran away to hide in his brother's house. This story about the three little pigs, meant to teach the value of perseverance, also teaches the value and meaning of a home. Time after time, the pigs in this parable found themselves homeless due to factors outside of their control. And so today, to further understand the importance of homes in our lives, we will first pick apart the haystack to learn about the history behind homes. We will then stick together to look at the factors in the current decrease of home ownership, and brick by brick, we will examine the innovations that are helping to lower housing costs across our globe. Much like the three little pigs used better and better materials as they learned, human dwellings have undergone a change as well. In order to understand how, we will cover both the history and evolution of homes. Back then, sanitation worked very differently, even for the three little pigs. When you needed to go, you needed to decide whether it was better to stink up the house or go outside and risk getting chased and were bitten by a wild tiger. Even when you got back into your cave, you had to deal with tripping over a stalagmite or your annoying bat roommates who refuse to pay rent and instead just bite you. Rabies isn't a good look on anyone. While we think of current homes as shelter, back then, being inside your home didn't always guarantee your safety from intruders like people or animals. After getting sick of caves, humans moved on to using mammoth bones and skins to construct houses. By the 15th and 16th centuries, open holes in the sides of houses turned into windows made of glass. However, glass was so expensive that only rich people were able to afford them. And they carried their glass windows from house to house when they moved. Who does that? By the 17th century, the Palace of Versailles was built. It featured hundreds of mirrors, chandeliers, and an area larger than 700,000 square feet. PBS News explains that 50 different fountains dot the grounds of the palace simply because King Louis XIV wanted to show off his wealth and power. He also wanted to keep a watchful eye on the scheming nobles around him, which must have been hard in a home with 700 rooms that could comfortably house 20,000 people. Now, that is pretty impressive, but other modern day houses have gone even crazier. Although it might sound unbelievable, there are houses made with glass that you can see through 100%. To Americans who value their privacy, this style of housing may sound absurd, especially when your neighbors can see you getting out of the shower in the morning. But it is growing popularity in places like Japan, underscoring how housing needs shift with culture. Now, many of these homes are not just for fun or for looks. In fact, there are now homes built to directly combat pollution. They are referred to as towering forests in the sky, called Bosco Vertical, according to CNN Architecture News. In 2014, Milanese architect Stefano Boeri completed his Living Twin Towers project, home to over 20,000 plants. Not only do these plants refresh the air, but they also attenuate noise and act as passive temperature regulators, according to InterestingEngineer.com. The big bad wolf would have trouble blowing one of these homes down, which is part of the point. Homelessness is an ever-growing issue in today's world, and part of that problem stems from environmental impacts. When that is coupled with two other main factors, cost and lack of space, it seems clear that a shift needs to happen. Forbes reports that in 2019, more than 24 million of home displacements occurred as a result of an environmental factor, such as wildfires, tornadoes, and tsunamis. Salaries are not keeping up with inflation. Forbes reports that when boomers were buying homes, the monthly cost of ownership was about 10% of the household income. Millennials are now paying 20 to 25% for the same privilege. Cost isn't the only factor. With the world population continuing to increase and homes in short supply, The Atlantic explains that there simply aren't enough homes to go around, adding to the homelessness pandemic. Recognizing that homelessness isn't the result of a single factor, but a combination of issues that can be combated is necessary as implications of these situations begin to arise. Post-wolf, much of the pig's way of life was altered. Never did it matter more both where and how they lived. To understand why that is and how that applies to all of us, we must examine the innovations that are helping to lower housing costs across our globe. Obstacles have arisen throughout the history of housing, but today, most Americans have a place to call home and feel protected. From boathouses to trailers to mansions, types of houses vary a great deal and are found in places you might not expect. This is a freeway underpass. You might wonder what this has to do with homes. Well, unfortunately, highway underpasses are what some people consider their neighborhood. These tent cities have popped up in areas all over the United States, and the faces of homelessness are increasingly veterans, families, and single parents with children, according to the National Institute of Health. However, the potential for help is coming. A recent technology is actually showing great promises in being able to break this impasse. You may have heard of it. Some people may have even shown you a cup holder or a toy they made with it. But what if I told you that you could actually 3D print an entire house? Yeah, in fact, 3D printing of homes has already completed in Tabasco, Mexico. The nonprofit New Story charity built 50 3D printed homes in order to house locals who were homeless or living in unfit shelters. This is doable because according to 3D-rific magazine in November 2020, lavacrete, a material somewhere between concrete and mortar, is extruded through a nozzle and stacked, layer on top of layer, in order to create a solid and durable house structure. The technology is advancing rapidly, and now many of these homes take only 5 to 7 days to go from nothing to completely finished and ready to move in. In fact, these machines can print up to 2,000 square feet in size, which Zillow reports is the size of an average American home. As we seek to improve the housing crisis, we have to acknowledge that prevention of homelessness from natural disasters is a real-world necessity. Engineers have invented floating homes. This life-saving technology is environmental and practical. According to the New Yorker, these homes are not static. They respond to floods, like ships to rising waters. Other solutions are coming in the form of a new twist on an old concept. Mobile homes have been around for decades, but now foldable homes are taking this to a new level. Companies like Boxable are creating foldable homes that are factory made and travel on truck beds to a destination where they are unfolded and move-in ready. At less than a quarter of the cost of a traditional home, these origami projects are making way for those whom homelessness has been their way of life. If only solving homelessness was as easy as pressing print, the Three Little Pigs wouldn't have had to overcrowd a single home. No matter if you're one of the Three Little Pigs, one of the 553,000 Americans who are dealing with homelessness across the country, or someone never directly impacted by this issue, but part of a larger economy that is greatly impacted by the growing epidemic of homelessness, this issue affects each of us. the three little pigs had to deal with their housing crisis by moving in together. But I think Americans have the potential to solve this issue with a little more ingenuity and a lot less teasing the big bad wolf.